I'm Tim Hamilton, economist and attorney and a resident of Douglas County, Kansas. And this video is to show you how to fill out the form on your property taxes to start the appeal process on your property taxes. Here's what typically happens. You open your mail and you get out your property tax assessment and you look at it and you think, wait a minute, this isn't right. There's no way this can be right. Maybe the neighbor across the street sold their house and it was better than your house, and it sold for $70,000 less than the value on your appraisal form, and you think, well, this just can't be right. And it might not be right. There might be a mistake. Quite often in the appraiser's office, they hire temporary staff because they have this massive volume of appraisals that they have to get done. And maybe the person who's working, God bless them, they are overworked and maybe they mixed up a row or a column and they put the wrong number in, and there may very well be a mistake on your particular assessment. But how are you going to know that unless you appeal your property taxes? The good news is it's not that time consuming and it's not that burdensome. I know when you think of appeal, you think, oh my God, I got to get all dressed up, I've got to go to the courthouse and drink bad coffee, and then there's going to be all this anxiety. Well, in this process, fortunately, it's set up so that you can do all of it from the comfort of your own home. Fill out the paperwork, you send it in, you can have a telephone hearing where you do that at home. So it's really simple process, but there's a couple of little tricks, so that's why I'm shooting a series of these videos to sort of help along. And the first one is this one, which shows you how to fill out the paperwork to start the ball going to appeal your property taxes. So let's get started. Okay, so I'm here at the computer and I have taken my notice of value. That's basically the document that comes in the mail, and I've scanned it and put it into a Word document so that we can look at it a little better on my computer here. And you can see I've highlighted this was 2021's value, and this one over here is 2022 value. I've put a fictitious address in here and sort of cleaned this up. When you put stuff on the internet, can't be too careful, right? So let's look at these values and just real quickly, you'll want to know this in the process of your appeal. You'll want to know what the percentage change is. So what is the difference between my last year's value and this year's value? Well, I'm going to subtract this year's value, 258,600. I'm going to subtract the old value from that new value, and that leaves me a difference of 57,500. In other words, my appraised value went up $57,500. Now I'm going to divide that by the old value real quickly, and then multiply that times 100 to turn it into a percentage, and there it is. So my property went up 28.59%, basically 28.6% in 1 year, which I consider really, really high. I want to have that information available. That's not something I'm going to necessarily be able to use in my appeal, but I want to know what it is. And that is part of your decision on whether to appeal. If that percentage had been maybe 3% or 5%, well, that's not a significant dislocation. You may not want to appeal. Let's get to how you actually fill out the form. So the second page, the back page of the document, looks like this. This is obviously the year 2022. You need to fill in the information here that I've highlighted, owner's name and address. So you see I put my name in there. I put my address in there. You can handwrite it. You don't have to type it. Your email address down there, and then your either work phone number or home number. The next line down here where I have my cursor is if there is a representative that you're going to have, you would then want to put their name in there. You don't have to have a lawyer or CPA to be your representative. You can have your neighbor, you could have your son, your daughter, your parent, friend, you name it. You can put anybody as your representative. That is one nice thing here in Kansas, is that anybody can be a representative for anybody else. So you can see here in section 4, scheduling, very important part. This says the phone number you want to write down, or in my case I typed it up here. It tells you what phone you're at, because they're going to call that number when they call you for your telephone hearing. And then you'll see over here list of unavailable dates. In my case, I teach this semester on Tuesdays and Thursdays in seat. So I'm unavailable in this window of these days. So I want them to have that information so they won't schedule it. The next one is section 5 here. Check reason for appeal. Most people are going to be checking this box or this box. One of those two. Do you think there are other properties like yours which are considerably lower in assessed value? Well, then you want to check that one. But you can check both, but you got to check something, or click other. You have to have some reason why you're appealing. And down here it says owner's estimate of value. You are not required to put anything in there. Let me show you something. Let's just look at this real quickly. This is the statute in play here, and this is KSA 79-1448. If you're going to appeal your taxes, I've highlighted the portions here that I think are significant in this decision for you. The county appraiser or appraiser's designee shall hold an informal hearing with the aggrieved taxpayer. You notice it says, at such meeting it will be the duty of the appraiser or the appraiser's designee to initiate production of evidence to substantiate the value of the property, including a summary of the reasons for the value of the property. Nowhere in here does it say that the taxpayer has to do that. It also says, in this next section, the taxpayer will be provided the opportunity to review the data sheets applicable to the value, and the appraiser will take into account any evidence which relates to the amount of deferred maintenance and depreciation of the property. So one more thing to hit on this statute here, and that is this portion here that I've highlighted. Again, this is KSA 79-1448. The county appraiser shall not increase the appraised valuation of the property as a result of the informal meeting. So you can rest assured that you have everything to gain and nothing to lose. They're not going to raise your value based on that meeting, because by statute they're not allowed to do it. So all the more reason to feel comfortable in appealing your taxes. So some pretty important stuff there. Let's get back to our form here. So you do not have to put a value there. You're welcome to put a value there. You might want to type up something like the comparable properties the county appraiser used are not applicable. I found much better comps. So you could type something like that. You could type, let's see, maybe your house has had some major issues that you believe the value should be dropped as a result of that. The foundation to my house caved in and we have not yet fixed it. It is uninhabitable. Something like that. So, but you're going to put a reason in here. You don't have to put any reason at all, but you probably will want to have something, if for no other reason, to keep yourself focused on why you're appealing. And then down here, you can see where this X is down here. This is where you're going to want to actually sign your name, right here. So you will sign down here in this box right here. You will sign, and of course you will print your name, put the date that you're mailing it off. You will mail it to this address up here, That is the county appraiser's office, and that's where you will send off your notice. So we're almost done. There's just one more thing that I recommend that you do prior to mailing this off, and that is to include a request for information. So you are entitled, remember, to the data sheets, copies of all data sheets used in creating the appraised value. So I recommend that you send this off and request that. You'll notice this last part here is if market comparables were used, send me those data sheets, and if the values of the comps were adjusted from the sale price, send me the data that justifies that adjustment. And the reason why I'm suggesting you put this in is that the market comps that they use, they might have moved the sale price from what the buyer and seller actually agreed. Example, a house sold for $250,000, but yet on the comparable starting point, they don't start at that $250,000. They start at $280,000, and you might think, well, where'd the $30,000 come from? Well, you have a right to that information, so that's why that's in there. And then lastly, down here on the bottom, do you want an in-person or over the phone hearing? That's your call entirely, but and you can write this on this sheet also. The other sheet, you can write it in here if you want to have in person as opposed to over the phone. I personally like to have the in person because I want to see face to face somebody tell me what my property's worth. But that's entirely your call. Your schedule may not accommodate that. You can also ask for these data sheets or market comparables over the telephone. You can just call up the appraiser's office and ask them to send that to you. The key is that you want to have this in front of you prior to your hearing. In Johnson County, and I know other counties in Kansas, the appraiser will send that information to the person when they get their notice. So they actually have the addresses printed on the assessment sheet that tells the taxpayer, oh, these are the comps that we're using. So that way the taxpayer can go look them up on their own and decide whether or not they're good approximations of their house. Douglas County, being a little more adversarial, they really don't want to help out the taxpayer, so they're not going to tell you that information unless you request it. So that's why we're requesting it. And you put this document, fold it up with the other one, put it in the envelope, and you're ready to go. The only other decision you have to make then is whether when you send this off to this address up here, are you going to send it certified or are you going to just put it in the regular mail? That's your call to make. I recommend you send it certified mail simply because I don't trust that they will be honest with me in telling me that they got my notice. I know it's not nice to say that. I wish I didn't have to say that. So just to protect myself, I make a certified letter. So there you go. That's what you need to do to start the ball on appealing your property taxes. That's the paperwork portion of the first level. If you'll watch the next level, we'll give you some tips and strategies about what you do when you go into that process of actually going to your hearing or your hearing on the telephone. I'm Tim Hamilton. Make sure you share this around to anybody else you know that is paying property taxes and needs to know the process.